Everything on TV lately is all about Christmas. Christmas films, Christmas music, Christmas adverts, shops enticing you to buy things in the sales for Christmas, lots of tempting Christmas food everywhere you turn. But we here on the UK's only TV show dedicated to mental health and well-being are going to be different. We're going to offer you our support because you might not be feeling very Christmassy right now if you're going through a hard time or if you've had a traumatic past. In fact, maybe you feel like there's nothing worth celebrating and you're actually sick and tired of the whole celebratory atmosphere. So we're not saying don't have a good time, don't have fun, but we do understand and we are going to show you that even if you've had a horrendous past, things can always get better. So what do we have on today's show? First up, we have the story of Shanamai Brown, who was sexually abused by close family members from the tender age of 4. She'll be telling us how this led to a wild life, but also about when she reached breaking point and decided to turn her life around. Also on the show today, we have our resident psychologist, Dr. Audrey Tang, for this week's Psychology Matters, and she'll be talking about how abuse from family members affects a person in their adult life. Then we have some Christmas safety tips for both children and adults from our abuse prevention expert, Marilyn Hawes. Sally Warford will be giving us some decluttering tips for when you want to make a fresh start after a hard time. We then go to Dr. Rob Hicks to answer all of your medical questions in Doctor's Answers. And finally, we all need a bit of comfort food from time to time, but who says that it has to be unhealthy? Nutritionist Hannah Richards will be showing us a super healthy recipe that will make you feel better and also satisfy any cravings. So let's get started with our real life story guest, Shanamai Brown. Welcome to the show, Shanamai.
Hello, good evening.
Thank you so much for coming on to speak about this. I know it was, a terrible, terrible time that you've been through, but you have come through it and you're doing really well today. But can you tell us about when all the problems started? What actually happened?
So everything started when I was around 4 or 5, and there was a relative that used to do sexual things with me, but I didn't understand at that time. Mm-hmm. And as I actually grew older, going into infant and primary school, my mind was a bit distorted. Mm-hmm. I ended up being bullied, and I just wanted that attention. I just wanted that love. And then going into high school is when there was still a bit of bullying, but I kind of started to change my attitude and change my appearance so that I can be accepted.
In what way did you change your appearance?
Well, in terms of appearance, like outside of school, I would dress a bit more provocative. Yeah. But inside school, like I would try fit in with the girls. Like they wouldn't wear the normal school trousers.
Okay.
Yeah, and they'll, it's a bit more tight fitted, so I'll wear it tight fitted as well. And that's how my mind was rolling. I would say when I got to year 9 is when things really blew out of proportion. That's because in year 9, there was a girl who was new to the school and she introduced me to her friendship groups outside of school. Okay. And we all lived in the same area. Now, because we lived in the same area, it was easy to, go and meet them and more often as well. But there was this one particular time that I, how can I put it? So she basically introduced me to her boys and a few of her girlfriends. These boys, I didn't really know much about them, and I was quite naive at the age of 14, 15. So I would speak to them on the BlackBerry, BBM ping, we would MSN as well. And it's like, I loved that attention, if that makes sense. Yes, there were times I entertained certain conversations that were definitely wrong. But at the same time, I was like, yay, someone's noticed me, kind of thing.
So when you said the conversations were wrong, was it like sexual things?
So like, it wasn't necessarily sexual, but it would be teasing, if that makes sense. So they were kind of, it's like a flirtatious, very teasy sort of conversation.
I mean, it sounds like it was innocent at the beginning, but what did that actually lead to? What happened?
So they used to knock on my door at late hours at night. I'm talking like 12 a.m., 1 a.m. while my parents were sleeping upstairs. Well, yeah. And I would be scared because why are you knocking on my door late in the evening? And I will go downstairs, open the door, and they will just like come in. Like, I didn't say you can come in my house, but you're coming in. Okay. They will try, you know, touch me, whatever. There were times I actually did hold it down and say no. But there was this one particular occasion where I will never forget it. Like, I will just never forget it. Where he basically, we stood face to face. I just, you know, when you stand frozen, that's exactly how I was. And they were a little bit older than me, and these guys were like hood people, and they just took my clothes off, like, and yeah, and there and then he, you know, raped me, and it's one I never forget because I remember how cold the tear was that came down my cheek. I know what side of the cheek that tear felt like it was so slow, you know, because that moment I believed that I lost everything. Yeah, I used to steal alcohol from the kitchen. I used to drink rum.
This was after this incident?
After this incident, to forget about it.
Okay.
You know, anytime they did knock on the door, you know, I would just drink, you know, to try forget and act like this.
So this all happened in your parents' house?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I know it's a bit crazy, but then I didn't even believe that my mum could help me. There were times where, because my mum was going through her own problems as well, in her own depression and how my stepdad was at the time as well. There was too much. There was already the family dynamics were already.
So it wasn't like a comfortable environment for you to actually speak and tell her what was going on.
I couldn't speak to my mum. There was one time that she did catch guys in my house before, but that was when my girlfriends were also in my house as well.
So she didn't.
Yeah.
Shannon, I mean, because obviously there's so much that happened to you, but what would you say were your worst moments in all of this?
I would say my worst, of course, the rape. The aftermath of me always playing around with my sister saying I'm going to kill myself, and times when she's actually caught me with a knife to my stomach because I generally wanted, like, I remember in that moment, I had a knife to my stomach, figuring out if I'm going to fall through because I'm a wimp, or am I literally going to do it and push it in. There was that. As I got older, let me fast forward it. So about a few years ago, I ended up in 2 domestic violence relationships where I, you know, been strangled in my own living room floor, being dragged around like a rag doll, being kicked out of bed. You know, I've been called names, you know, even for your own person that's supposed to love you to call you names such as, have you ever wondered why you got raped, and say all of these comments to me. And he will say horrible things like, you aid, you this, you that. And I was thinking, where the hell is this coming from? You're supposed to be my boyfriend. You're supposed to love me, but you're there kicking me to the curb kind of thing. But I held on to those relationships because I felt like I had nothing else. Like, I didn't want to lose that. That's the only thing that I had. I didn't love myself. I suffered from depression. I remember even going counselling. Counselling wasn't working for me. They were trying to diagnose me with post-traumatic stress disorder. I actually have the paperwork at home. They said something, I don't even know how it all works, but it says mild this, and I don't know. But that's what they tried. You know, I'll constantly be in hospital, suicidal thoughts.
What were you in hospital for?
I was in hospital for my sickle cell. It's an incurable disease that you're born with. I had that. to go with, but then also at the same time, it was my escape place. Going to hospital means that I just want to die. I'm basically screaming for help. I'm in a hole.
So you actually
Somebody help
wanted to
me.
be in hospital?
I wanted to be in hospital, even though even sometimes I was in pain. I'm going to run to the hospital. But times when I wasn't in pain, I'll still want to go to the hospital because that was my escape. You know, I didn't have to pick up my phone. I didn't have to do anything. It's just me and the walls. That's it. You know, me, the
That's
wall.
really sad, isn't it? When that is like being in hospital is like your escape, like just to get away from everything that you were feeling, but actually you weren't escaping because you self-harmed in the hospital. I
self-harmed in the hospital, not once, not twice. I did it on a few occasions. You know, I've even made myself sick sometimes. I was really trapped in the hospital, and what kind of scares me is the fact that hospitals are a place of, I say death. The reason why I say it is because that's where you go when you're sick. You know, some people die in a hospital, some people are very, very ill in a hospital. You know, some people can't really overcome when they're in hospital. But why am I inside desiring to go there? How am I desiring to go to this place? That shows you what was inside of me. Yeah. You know, I had nothing. And when I was in pain, it was so excruciating. Like, I would scream in the hospital, like, help me, but the nurses can't do anything. I'm screaming, but they can't help. So,
So you not only had the emotional pain, but you also had the physical as well. Yeah. You're trying to deal with all of that. How did you cope? What did you do?
Couldn't really cope. I couldn't, like, even suffering with depression, you can't cope. It's like a hole. It's like, the thing is with depression, those who suffered from depression knows exactly what I'm saying when I speak right now. It's like a big, massive void, a dark void inside of you, and it's so painful and so heavy that pain and that heaviness becomes physical. Yeah. It's like, it's inside, but it's coming outside. That's how I was walking around. And it's very scary, especially being someone who was popular, Instagram girl, music videos, all of this. It's crazy.
Shanamai, you don't have that gaping hole, that void anymore. And we're going to find out what happened right after this break. Welcome back to today's Chrissy B Show, everybody. So before the break, we heard from Shanamai Brown, who told us all about the terrible things that she went through when she was a child and growing up as well, and even her desire to actually be in hospital just to escape or try to escape from her problems. So now she's going to tell us actually how her life actually turned around, right, Shanamai?
Yes.
So tell us what happened. When did this change happen? And how could it happen after all that you've been through?
Okay, I know what I'm going to say might sound crazy, but I was introduced to a youth group and I was thinking, really? A youth group? Me? Yeah. Oh. But I went and I haven't looked back since because there were people that actually went through what I went through.
Okay.
And they understood. Nobody judged me. And they actually listened. And the difference between when I went counselling beforehand and going to this youth group was that they didn't just ask me questions, they had solutions. Two different things. When I went to counselling, I was just being questioned, and I generally believed that I was going round in circles. But when I went to the youth group, the advisors there, those people that were helping me, you know, through these problems, you know, gave me tips. You know, they they also gave me their own life experiences.
Yeah.
And I was able to learn from that. And everything that they gave me, I was able to apply. And when I applied it, I saw results. And then it just worked. And then now I'm here today.
Well, I mean, we've gone through it like in almost like 2 seconds flat, but I mean, this obviously didn't happen overnight.
Of course,
it was a process, wasn't it?
Yes, it was a process. To be honest, I wouldn't even say process, it was a fight.
Okay.
And the reason why I say it's a fight, because doubts always came. Shanma, are you really going to make it? Is going to the youth group going to help you? Even being at home, sometimes you have those feelings of being alone. You know, you'll have those feelings of low. And when one of the advisors at the youth group must have said to me, Shanamai, have you ever thought of doubting that doubt? And I was like, that's wow. And use these small tools, I was using them at home, and it eventually the doubts stopped. It's like I became more powerful. It's like I knew who I was. I found what I had inside of me that I didn't know I had. You know, what I had was faith. You know, what I had was a power that I didn't know. And when we learn to tap into this power, we can overcome anything that comes our way. You know, I was very promiscuous, and I would always think about sex. You know, I would always smoke weed. I was someone that was craving these things. Now I had the power to not even smoke anymore. And I know people that struggle with these addictions, and I overcame them. I didn't have to go to any rehab. I didn't have to do any of these things. And I literally made a decision inside of me, Shanamai, you're going to change your life. There's no ifs, there's no buts about it. It's going to happen, and that's what you're going to get, and that's what happened. And that's the reason why I'm sitting here today.
That's amazing. How is Shanamai today then? What were you doing now?
Well, I'm free from depression.
Great.
Yeah, I don't suffer from any doubts or any insecurities. My past doesn't haunt me. You know, if someone was to speak about rape with me, I'd be like, okay. You know, if someone was to speak about any of those negative things like my past of domestic violence and all of these things, it wouldn't affect me. I wouldn't cry over it. You know, I'm able to help somebody else because I'm free inside. You know, it was like a prison inside, especially when having depression. So, you know, everything around me, I'm truly, truly happy. When I smile, it's a genuine smile. I don't need to force anything. I know who I am, and I'm true to myself, and I'm true to everybody else around me.
Amazing. Now, you mentioned prison there. What is it that you do now? Let's talk about prison.
Yes. Yes, I'm a probation officer.
Okay.
Yes.
And you're very young, aren't you? You're 22, is it?
Yes,
22, and you're a probation officer. That's amazing. So you're also helping people in the same youth group that you got help as well?
Yeah. Literally, I'm helping people from all ages, literally. And what I like about it is that the problems that I faced, some of these people, these service users have faced them as well.
Okay.
So I'm able to give them certain tools that helped me.
Amazing.
And some of them are actually taking it on board, so I'm actually happy.
Just one final thing, Shanamai, because obviously this show is very close to Christmas Day, and you know everyone is celebrating and stuff, but maybe there are people watching now that have been through what you went through, or are still going through it, and they, you know, all this Christmas stuff is getting on their nerves. They're not happy basically, and they don't even feel like going on anymore with life. What advice would you give to them?
I think it's time just to take a pause. When you are trying to live up to the expectations of what everybody else wants, such as Christmas, you're not sorting out what's inside of you. When Christmas finishes, where are you? You're in the same place as you were beforehand. Then what was the point of pulling on the front for the sake of that season when you're going to continue in the same cycle that you were in? Take a pause. It's not selfish to do that, because you're the one who needs the help. You're the one who's in that problem, in that box. So why don't you make it a Christmas present for yourself to take a pause? Literally, like I said, a box. open. Unwrap yourself, literally. Get yourself out of this box, because there is a diamond inside waiting to be shown across the whole world. Yeah. But you just need to take that pause for yourself and work on yourself.
I think I have to end it on that one. Perfect. I love what you said. Thank you, Shanamai, so much for sharing your story. And I'm sure that's given so many people hope that are going through something right now, and proof that anybody can turn their life around. Thank you so much, my sweetheart.
Thank you.
Okay, everybody, so now it's time to go to Dr. Audrey Tang in our Psychology Matters segment. Welcome to the show, Audrey.
Thanks for having me, Chrissy.
So this one's a very difficult topic to speak about, but it does need to be addressed. So can you tell us about the effects that family abuse has on a person?
Well, abuse can come in many ways. You've got emotional abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse, and neglect. And that already causes us a number of problems. As we get older, we may have trouble forming relationships, we may have trouble with intimacy, we may have trouble trusting other people, and so on. Yeah. But when it's the family as well, there's added extra complications. The first thing is, we may not even believe we're being abused. That's one of the problems, because the home is supposed to be the place where we feel the safest. And so it can be easy to think, oh, did I misread that? Did I actually see that correctly? And so you may question it, which means it could go on for a little bit longer. Then you've got the other problem of, well, what if, say, the abuse is occurring through the uncle, but the auntie knows about it and seems to be turning a blind eye to it. Yeah. Now, there may be many reasons for that, but that's something that we have to come to terms with as well, because, again, that is a form of rejection. It's a form of not being validated when you try and raise the point. Plus, it might be, if you do realise that it is abuse, then maybe you don't want to tell people because of feelings of shame or denying it, or even wanting to protect the family. Yeah. And then it's hard to escape, perhaps, because it might be that you feel, oh my goodness, if I go, well, will they take it out on my younger brother or sister? And so there are many different complications keeping us in that relationship, as well as the fact that it's compounded by, we may not know it's happening or realise it's happening, or we may still question, even when we're pretty sure it is abuse, whether we're seeing it correctly or not.
It's very complex, isn't it? Which is why it's so important to actually get the right kind of help for this, because it can ruin your life if you don't deal with it. It's like...
The whole problem with abuse is it has long-lasting effects, and the best way to deal with it is talking to the professionals about it. It's very difficult to get over this on your own, because you've got the whole sense of blame for yourself, blame for the other person, anger, again, directed at yourself, anger at the other person. And those emotions are very difficult to be able to work through, especially when it is somebody who you are close to or have a sense of loyalty to. Yeah. The other problem is, of course, trying to get out of the situation, because in the home environment, it may be very difficult to find time to yourself. What if that person who's abusing you is also very controlling and checks your phone, or is the person who pays the bill, therefore they have access to all of your accounts and so on? Then it may be wise to have something like an escape plan, having a crisis concept, but maybe not even having that written down on paper. Maybe you actually have to memorize a lot of the numbers. And then if you do plan that escape, sometimes it's best to try that route out yourself as well, because when it comes to it, so many different things can happen when you're actually trying to leave that situation. Sometimes even having a safe word or a code word with a family member or somebody that you trust, so they know immediately you say that word, they can phone the police or something like that, can be helpful. But you're absolutely right. Once you are out of the situation, then the work begins again, because you have to come to terms with it. And the hardest thing is, so many people will just switch it off. I don't want to think about it. It's a whole part of my life which isn't there anymore. That's the sort of feeling that people have, because that's what gets them through the next day. And so it's perfectly understandable. However, if you switch yourself off to those feelings of pain and shame and hurt, you often switch yourself off from feelings of joy and love and happiness as well. And it's really important to remember that somebody that is strong is able to live with pain, live with that vulnerability, live with those feelings and manage those feelings, but not let it derail them in future. Whereas somebody who is just saying, I'm cutting myself off, you're not actually being strong about that, because being strong means you weather all of those things that come at you. And that's where professional help is the most important, because it can be really difficult, first of all, to speak to other friends and family about it, because they often know the people involved. But also, just speaking to friends may not be enough, because with the best will in the world, they may not be trained in being able to help you. So the most important thing is do speak to the professionals, but of course we need to take it right back to try and get out of that situation.
Yes. Audrey, thank you so much.
Pleasure.
And we'll see you again next week.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, everybody, after the break, we have on expert Marilyn Halls, who'll be speaking about abuse prevention for both children and adults over the festive period. And Sally Wolford will be giving us some decluttering tips for when you want to make a fresh start after a hard time. Hi, I'm Chrissy B, host of the UK's only TV programme dedicated to mental health and well-being, The Chrissy B Show, which airs on MyTV Sky 191 every Monday, Wednesday and Friday. Follow our social media on YouTube, Instagram and Twitter at Chrissy B Show, and our Facebook page, The Chrissy B Show. For more information, visit chrissybshow.tv.
I think everything that raises awareness is brilliant, and this is great because it's so outwardly shown. People can see them dancing, everybody learns to dance, it's brilliant. So it just, I think, is another way that we can bring mental health into conversations and help people to kind of tackle this topic.
Welcome back to today's Chrissy B Show, everybody. And now it's time to speak to Marilyn Halls about abuse prevention over the festive period. Welcome back to the show, Marilyn.
Thanks for having me.
Wonderful resident guest to have on, everybody, because always the advice is so good and, you know, very, very vital for everybody.
Thank you.
So tell us, it is a risky period, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell
for
us?
everybody, if you're an adult, forget the side of being a child. But if you are an adult and you do get a little bit over the top, we've all been there. You know, drinks being spiked, people hitting on you inappropriately, not understanding or not even thinking, what are you doing? Who am I going home with here? Stay in groups. Don't single off on your own. Make sure people know where you're going, who you're going with. I always think as well there should be, and I say this to children as well, have a buzzword that means you're in trouble, like sausages or something like that, that you can text your parent or a trusted friend, that they know that means I'm in trouble, something that is an exit strategy really to get yourself out of a situation. But always, I used to say to my daughter, you know, always make sure you've got your hands on your own steering wheel. You're the car, you drive your own car. Don't let anybody else sidle in behind your wheel and, you know, take over your life. Because then it can end up in tragedy. And how do you get over that if somebody rapes you? I think these days you've got to be even more alert. Yeah, I mean, it's concerning sort of going out and stuff. I suppose it takes a bit of planning just to make sure you have a good think about things. Don't just sort of just concentrate on, I'm going out, I'm going to see my friends, I'm going to have fun, but think about what you're going to do afterwards, or, you know, what to look out for during that night. Exactly. Have a plan. Let people know where you're going. Don't go off-piste, so to speak, you know, because if you are over the top and have had a few drinks, you just, as I say, you've lost control. You see it on the news when people are at Christmas falling off pavements and doing all that, and you just haven't a clue, you can't remember, you don't want to be in that position at all. You know, and suddenly you find yourself raped, and who knows, then pregnant afterwards. And then we saw only in the situation this week where somebody who's been in prison, has got a life sentence, 35 years, has been allowed to see the child from the young girl that he raped. So that is not something any woman wants to be facing. You know, and also men. I mean, men hitting on men and being beaten up, and drugs and county line stuff, all this stuff that's going on. It's not a very pleasant society at the moment. Not at all. You know, so, and then you have the in the home when uncles, aunties, cousins all come round.
See, it's something that families normally look forward to, but it's also a big opportunity for paedophiles, isn't it?
Massive. And the abusing, 60% of children who are sexually abused is in the family. And families get together at Christmas. I mean, my sister was raped, and we had this slobbery uncle that used to come around. I would never go near him. And who is the person that's holding you a little bit too long, holding you a little bit too close? Why should you kiss somebody you don't know, or anyone that you might know them, but I wouldn't want to be forced to kiss someone. Kiss granny, kiss granddad. Why? You need to teach the children they are allowed their own space. They are allowed to make those decisions themselves. And that's how, I saw it with my own family. I would never kiss this uncle because he gave me the creeps, even when I was 9, 10 years old. He did the dastardly deed on my sister. You let a child use their instincts. They might be doing. I always say to my own grandchildren and their dad and their mums, kiss Nana goodbye. Whoa, no, high five will do. Just an acknowledgement that they don't never force somebody for me to go into their private space, and then you've got the lap sitting. Oh my word.
You've mentioned this before, but can you speak about for
the
benefit
way
of the viewers
someone,
that,
I've never in my life had to say to somebody, come and sit on my lap, come and sit on my lap. In my experience, it's always been, oh, no more chairs, I'll sit on Nana's lap, I'll sit on Mum's lap, the child will go. But the person that's going, come and sit on my lap, come and sit on my lap, well, whose needs are being met? The child will find the person they feel most comfortable with. And then it's the way that child is sat on the lap, if it's a man. If you sit a child, I've got my trousers on for good reasons, but if I sat a child with its legs here and its bottom here, and I'm a man, with the spine of the child here, that's not appropriate. Is there any subtle things that think, that's not quite right? Well, say, can you move?
Yeah.
Just move, go and sit somewhere else, because that is inappropriate. That is what these people groom in plain sight. The number of ladies that have said to me as a child, my uncle, my granddad, my father would sit me on his lap and, at 9 years old, look like they were keeping the child safe on their lap. When you're a little girl, these are developing and holding in plain sight a young child of 9, 10 years old whose breasts are developing and holding it here. The humiliation that child's feeling, well, all sorts of stuff is going on below that they can feel. And you're sat there with probably 20 family in the room. It doesn't take 2 seconds to abuse a child under a lunch table. If somebody doesn't want to sit next to someone at lunch, don't force it. There may be a reason why they don't want to. I don't want to sit next to auntie because women are blues as well. I don't want to sit next to my cousin. Don't make them. There may be a reason.
Okay.
Respect what they're trying to say.
This thing that you're talking about with the instincts is really, really
important. It's very
because
important.
it just takes my mind back to this man that used to come round to our house all the time, and he wasn't even a family member. He was just a friend that he was friends with my gran, but he was always around, and me and my sister always found him really, really creepy. He never did anything, but we always just found him really creepy, and we didn't know why, even as children. But so it does. I don't know if he was or he wasn't. He's dead now, but I didn't feel comfortable.
You don't feel comfortable,
him.
And also the amount of peer-on-peer abuse. The number of, and I do a lot in the holidays. I do a lot of work with other people. The number of adult ladies that said their brothers sexually abused them when they were younger. Who's in the room? Who's gone out the room? Where are they? It's so easy at Christmas. Everybody is, hello, happy Christmas, have another drink, whoa, the dreaded kiss under the mistletoe. Just keep your eyes a little bit wider for what's going on, because 90% of children who are abused know the abuser, either by friend, association or relative. It came through the door of your parents that were trusting that person. So it's massively huge. And just keep an eye. Don't kill anyone's fun, but just keep an eye.
Yeah, that's what we're saying. It's not that we want to spoil everyone's Christmas, but all we're saying is just keep your eyes open a bit and just get carried away.
Yeah, don't get carried away, and don't force somebody else's opinion on someone else's personal space.
Exactly. Marilyn, thank you so much,
my darling.
and
happy Christmas.
We'll see you again very soon. Thank you. All right, everybody, so now it's time to speak to Sally Warford, who's going to be giving some decluttering tips for when you want to make a fresh start after a hard time. Welcome to the show, Sally.
Thanks, Chrissy. It's great to
Lovely
be here.
to have you back, because you know I love these segments with you.
Thank you. Thanks.
So today, Sally, we're talking about decluttering after a hard time. Maybe someone wants to move on after something difficult they've been through. What would your tips be?
Sure. Well, there's actually quite a lot of reasons why people get in touch with me for that particular reason. It can be a breakup with a relationship. Yeah. It can be through bereavement, or even just downsizing or moving on to a different phase in your life. Okay. So there's a lot of reasons why decluttering can really help you move forward and make you sort of start a new beginning in a way. So for people that perhaps are finding it very difficult to let go of a lot of things, I would strongly advise that they take time for themselves and to do it in stages if they have got that time to do it. So one of my top tips is definitely for photos or little keepsakes that you'd like to keep are these, it's a memory box, and to always have a really nice memory box. Yeah. So that it's going to bring you happy memories, and you're going to look at that and open it up and really start to look back and have fond memories of whatever it is, the reason that you've moved on from.
Okay, that's a good idea,
So the other, this is a really great tip actually, and this I've used with quite a few of my clients that sadly have been through a bereavement. Okay. But I've bought a jumper, I haven't got one made up, but a lot of my clients keep a jumper for some reason. I suppose that's because of smells and comfort and that kind of memory. So you can actually get hot water bottles made up from the fabric. Yeah. Which is a great idea, I think, because again, you're then sort of like getting that comfort from that feeling and also the memory of that person. And I think it's a real personal touch, and also, you know, giving you a really lovely warm feeling rather than obviously the terrible times that you've been through before.
That's right, that's a nice idea.
So it's always good to, I know decluttering, particularly after any kind of moving on, can be quite scary for people. So I always think that to have nice things like that is going to help you move forward and help you start decluttering more things. Yeah,
and without feeling also that you're betraying the memory of that person, especially if it's someone that you've lost, that they've died of whatever reason. And it's like you don't just want to get rid of all their clothes at once, maybe, because it feels like... Because some people can do that. Other people, it takes them some time. Exactly. And I think it's really important as well. And if some people sort of like get rid of stuff, they can sometimes regret doing that. Yeah. So again, it's all part of the process. And I think that's where you've got to be really kind to yourself. Yeah, definitely. And just let yourself go. Now, who is this? This is Bunny. Okay. Hello, Bunny. Bunny. Nice to have you on the show. So, well, again, this is through my experience with some people that have really suffered from empty nest syndrome. Yeah. And they've really struggled with letting go of their children. I mean, even though they're grown up, they don't want their toys, they don't want their baby grows, etc., etc. But, you know, the parents are struggling. So, again, there's some great companies out there, and you can get teddies, bunnies, for example, made out of their clothes. Okay. So again, then they could be handed down to the grandchildren or the niece or the nephew or whatever. So that, again, we're upcycling, recycling, but also keeping that memory going. And I thought that was another great... I know there were companies that did that. Wow. They're great. And also you could get, the same with this actually, you can get blankets or cushions, you know, all things that bring you warmth and comfort. Yeah. You know, so you can, again, thinking outside the box, you can bring that back into your home, but in a good way. Yeah. And even if it's not even for the comfort, isn't it? It's just, you just don't want to waste the things that you have. And exactly, because you know me, Chrissy, I do love to upcycle and recycle. So yeah. Well, Sally, thanks for those tips once again. You're very welcome. Tips. Thank you so much, and we'll see you again very soon. Thanks, Chrissy. Thanks a lot. Thank you. All right, everybody, so after the break, we all need a bit of comfort food from time to time. But who says that comfort food has to be unhealthy? Well, nutritionist Hannah Richards will be showing us a super healthy recipe that will make you feel better and also satisfy any cravings you might have. And of course, we also have on Dr. Rob Hicks answering your medical questions, including this one. Is it normal for a period to start at different times of the month? Find out what he has to say after this.
I think it's very important because it's a very interactive way for young people to take part and know the stigma around mental health and actually make a change.
Yeah.
As we were advertising our Student Mental Health Dance Challenge, we had lots of people come forward. We had lots of boys here where we know that lots of boys aren't actually able to talk about mental health.
Welcome back to our programme, everybody. So now it's time to talk to Dr. Rob Hicks to answer all of your medical questions. Welcome to the show, Rob.
Hello, Chris. How are you?
I'm very well. How are you?
Fantastic.
I know these
thank you.
cupcakes have made you really
I
happy
know,
today.
I'm very tempted. Aren't they pretty?
They are. They're lovely, aren't they?
They're very, very uplifting.
Yes. Okay. So let's get to today's questions, Rob. So the first one is it normal for a period to start at different times of the month? 1 month, my period can start at the beginning of the month. The next month, it starts a few days or even a week later, and so on. Is that normal?
It's a really good question, and the answer is yes. It is usually normal. Mm-hmm. For women's periods, there's a cycle range. So, the average that's quoted is every 28 days.
Yeah.
But many women have a period cycle that isn't spot on 28 days. Mm. So your cycle can be anywhere from 21 days to every 40 days. That's the accepted normal range. So if you think about, imagine that you've got a 30-day cycle, for example, and 1 month your period starts on a Monday. Well, 30 days later, that's going to be a Wednesday. So it can start on a different day and indeed a different time of the month, and that can be perfectly normal. I think it's also important to highlight that, every now and then you can miss a period. And that can be normal as well. But there are some sort of symptoms that you should, get checked out with regards to periods. So, for example, if your periods are irregular, so 1 month it's every 22 days, then it's every 35 days, and then it's every 28, so there really isn't a regular cycle. Or if you're getting periods that are outside of the 21 to 40 days, or other symptoms, for example, so the periods are lighter, or they're getting heavier, or they get pain, or you're getting pain, or getting bleeding actually in between the periods, or you're getting bleeding after you've had sex, then these are all sorts of things to get checked out. Now, the reality is often there isn't an underlying problem, but if there is, such as an infection or a hormonal imbalance, for example, then these are likely to need treatment. So when you go to see your doctor, why don't you keep a record, a diary, a cycle diary of your periods? Because often you'll say, oh, look, mine is every 31 days. And then you know that it's a regular period for you. But that's the sort of thing to do. Get yourself checked out, and then if there is a problem, it can be treated. But 9 times out of 10, if not a bit more, this is absolutely normal for it to start at a different day each month.
Okay, next question, Rob. I feel burning whenever I go to the toilet. I've had urine infections before, and normally I have to take antibiotics because the discomfort can be unbearable. This feels different. There are no other symptoms apart from the stinging. What do you think?
Well, I think this is a good question, because this person obviously recognises the symptoms they get when they've got a urine infection. That said, you can still have a urine infection without the typical symptoms or the symptoms that you might have experienced in the past. Yeah. So I think you should get this checked out, because as I said, it might still be a urine infection that you need treatment for. It could actually be a different type of infection, so a sexually transmitted infection, where burning is a very, very common symptom for women, for example, who get chlamydia, a sexually transmitted infection. So those things certainly need to be checked out. The other thing is, it may not be infection related at all. If you've got an irritated or inflamed part of the body, the urine going over that or coming into contact with that will make it feel very sore. It will make it feel like burning. So you want to try and establish what's the underlying cause likely to be. So thrush, the yeast infection will often cause a burning sensation when a woman pees. It may be a skin condition like eczema or psoriasis, which can actually affect the genital area. It's not just the elbows and the knees and other parts of the body that are affected by these skin conditions. Any part of the skin can be affected. It might be that you developed an allergy to something, whether it's washing powder, detergents, or some of the hygiene products that you're using, or it might be simply a case of irritation being caused by clothing that's actually causing frictional damage and irritation to the skin down there. So therefore, when the urine passes over that, it goes in contact with it, it really does sting and burn. So I would suggest to you that you get yourself checked out to see what's the underlying causes. Then your doctor can recommend exactly what the appropriate treatment is for you.
Well, Rob, that's it for today. Thank you so much.
My pleasure as always.
And we'll see you again for a very special show next week.
I'm looking forward to that.
Me too. All right, guys, so we all need a bit of comfort food from time to time, but who says that comfort food has to be unhealthy? Nutritionist Hannah Richards will be showing us a super healthy recipe that will make you feel better and satisfy any cravings. It's called Goldilocks porridge. Porridge, you might ask? I promise you this is not the porridge you're used to, and you're going to love it. Let's take a look.
Hello and welcome to the Chrissy B Show. My name's Hannah Richards, and today I'm going to make porridge, and I call it Goldilocks porridge. I'm going to take you first of all through all the ingredients we're going to use. First of all, we're going to talk about star anise, and this is a really wonderful herb, spice, with a bit of an aniseedy taste to it. These are cinnamon sticks, and we're going to put these spices into the porridge, and the flavours are going to infuse out as we're cooking. I've got my pan on the heat here, and I'm going to start with a spoon of coconut oil. First of all, we're going to throw in a big can as well of coconut milk. So then we're going to throw in some oats into the porridge. You could obviously use quinoa oats or buckwheat, but these are just your normal oats. It's also worth saying that oats are gluten-free, but sometimes they can be contaminated, which is why you often now find them with the gluten-free label on them. I'm going to add some ginger. This is fresh fruit ginger. You could use ground ginger, but for this Goldilocks porridge, it's so much better when you've got all fresh produce. Now, ginger is a great digestive aid as well, so it's always good to have in any types of cooking. I'm going to grate it over into the pan, straight into the porridge. Now, the last ingredient we're going to put in are cardamom seeds. So I'm going to put a handful of these in there as well. So I'm going to grate a little bit more ginger over here because I think I'm going to put some in right at the end as a sort of garnish. So then we're going to add some turmeric, and this is a really nice anti-inflammatory spice. So I'm going to put a good heaped teaspoon in. I'm going to put a little bit of sea salt in, just a twist. And I'm actually at this point going to put a small drizzle of honey in. As you can see, it's really bubbling, and I can really smell that turmeric. I can smell the cinnamon. I can see the colour of all those things combined have made. So I'm going to put them into these glass jars. Then I'm going to put my freshly grated ginger on the top of each one. I'm going to do a sprinkle of sesame seeds. This is really just for a little bit of garnish. This is my really wonderful honey. It's called Hard to Find honey, and it's infused with coriander. So I'm just going to put a really small amount of honey on the top here for taste. And there you have 2 Goldilocks porridges, fit for any little bear for breakfast. I'm Hannah Richards. I've been cooking for the Chrissy B Show. I hope you have a wonderful day.
Thank you very much to all my guests on today's program, and especially to Shannon Mai for sharing such a difficult past with all of us. And I know it's not maybe something that some of you expected. You're expecting something to do with Christmas and what we normally do on this program. But to be honest, what's the point of doing that if you are going through some difficult times? Okay, maybe Christmas for you is just a way to take your mind off things, but what happens after the festive season? You're still there with the same problems, with the same traumas that maybe you've been trying to deal with, or you haven't even attempted to actually deal with yet. So this show is all about mental health and well-being, and what we love to do the most is actually help you out with any problems that you're going through. So that's why we decided to do something completely different, not follow the crowd, not do what everyone else is doing, but to actually address issues that you might be going through. So if you are going through something, if you haven't actually sought help yet, we spoke about speaking to professionals. There are of course many charities that do help over the festive period, but also obviously throughout the year as well. But sometimes people find the festive period very, very difficult to deal with because everyone seems happy, everyone seems to be getting on with it, and you might be feeling miserable. So please, if you are going through something, get help. Contact local charities, maybe go along to your local church, speak to someone about what you're going through that you feel comfortable with, and get that ball rolling to actually getting the right help and recovering. And if you'd like to speak to me about anything, I'm here for you. You can email me on my personal email, which is chris@chrissybshow.tv. Well, we have reached the end of today's program, but if you have a story that you would like to share, please do get in touch with us by emailing info@chrissybshow.tv. You can also tweet or Instagram us @chrissybshow, or leave a message on our Facebook page, The Chrissy B Show. And if you'd like to know more about my mental health struggles that I had in the past but overcame, you can visit my personal website, which is mylifeafterdepression.com. Until next time, bye for now.
Looking forward to that.
Me too. All right, see you.
Bye-bye.
I was saying see you too, sorry. Sorry,
See
I don't know why I
you.
said that. Sorry. See you next week.
See you. Sorry. I'm sorry, I couldn't resist.
All right, okay. I just won't say anything about next
Why
week.
don't you just close it on me too?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. And we'll see you again for a very special show next week.
Can't wait for that.
Not me. You changed the
Oh, sorry.
thing. Rob! Sorry. Thanks, Rob. That's it for today.
You changed it. Sure, sorry.